Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evans. As you know, we're building a full stack web application using Python. We're using Python and Django for our backend, and then for our front end we're using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. So, and then for our database, for now we're using DB SQLite 3, but as we progress I'm gonna change the database to Postgres. But I'm also gonna show you how to build applications with MySQL as well. So in this tutorial we're building a full stack web application that has the functionalities of Uber, Airbnb, and Booking.com, which implies that on our application drivers can register on the system, and then users can book a ride from the app. Then hotels and individuals can also list their rooms just the way it's done on Airbnb, and Booking.com. Hotels can list their rooms, individuals can also list their rooms, and then people can see the available rooms and then rent the room. So it's gonna be a full stack web application, and you're gonna learn everything about Django, everything about Python. You'll learn HTML, front-end development with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and Bootstrap. You'll also learn backend technology, which is Python and Django. So I'm just gonna start my application now. So I'll simply go to open Git bash here, and this is not the first lectures in this tutorial series. We already have about 12 lectures. So if you're a complete beginner, I suggest you go back to the previous lectures, and then so you can come to speed. Now my project is up, and as you can see in previous lectures, we've created our authentication app. We have created our vendor app as well, and then in our vendor app, we completed the vendor registration code. So also in our authentication app, we created some models for user profile and then model for user as well. So this user model is responsible for capturing the password, username, email, and some other fields for authentication, while the user profile model is used to capture the basic info of either a driver or a vendor or a user. So as we keep on building this application, we're gonna add more fields to this. I don't want to make it very I don't want to add too many fields for now, so you don't get confused. But as we keep progressing, we'll add more fields and make these our models more robust. Now in our last lectures we work on the vendor registration, our vendor app. So before we proceed to the driver app, you need to do something. Just go to your model, and then in here you see it has small letters vendor registration. So I'm going to show you the implication of this when you name your class in small letters. So I will spin up my server and then log into my admin panel, so you see how this is displayed on the admin panel. So simply go to these three dots and then click on terminal and new terminal, and then when your terminal is up, you spin up your server, Python manage.py run server. So I'm just gonna go Python manage.py run server, and then I press enter and give it some time to spin up the server. So my server is up and running. You have three options. You can simply hold down Control and then you press on this, you click on this link, or you simply copy this link and then you paste it on your web browser. So now I'm just gonna log into my admin panel. So I'll come to my address bar and then put a /, type admin. So this is my admin panel. It gives us easy access to check our database tables. And so you see vendor registration. This is what I'm trying to show you. Because my model is named with small letters, you know, it's showing like this vendor registration. Now, in Python and Django, your model classes should start with capital letter, and then if you want to separate two words, you can simply use underscore. So I have vendor underscore registration, or I start the second word with a capital letter as well. So vendor registration. This is Pascal casing. So we have Pascal casing, we have camel casing, and then we also have snake casing. So snake casing is a small letter all through, while Pascal casing is first letter capital, and subsequent word capital. And then we have camel casing, which is something like, the first letter is gonna be small letter, and then the second word is gonna be capital, and then if you have another one, small letter, so this is example of a camel casing, but in this case we are using Pascal casing. Now once you change this to vendor registration, you're gonna have some errors, so first of all I need to save everything, and then I'm just gonna copy this my model name, which is now different. Now I'll go to my vendor app, and then I'll go to my admin.py, and then you can see from .model import vendor registration. This was a formal name, which is small letter V and small letter arrow. So I have to paste the new model, and then here as well I have to paste it as well, the new model vendor registration. That's not all, you still need to go to your forms.py, and then here I imported it as well, form.model import vendor registration. So I'm just gonna change it, and then I will also scroll down and then change. So basically I'm changing wherever I imported vendor registration model from. I think that should be all. Then I go to file, click on save all. Now if you're having issues with your code, you can ask questions on the comment section. Alternatively, you can just pause the video, take a good look at my code, and implement on your end. Now I'm gonna go back to my admin.py, and then I will refresh this page. Now you see, so it's vendor registration now. Yeah, that's it. So now for today's lectures, we're gonna create our driver app. So an app in Python and Django is used to group similar code or similar functions together. So right now I have created a vendor app. So in this vendor app, I'll have everything like vendor registration, vendor profile management, vendor payment, anything that concerns the vendor. All the code is gonna be inside this app. All my code for authentication is gonna be inside my authentication app, and then all my code for my driver as well is gonna be in my driver app. So I can put every code in the same app or wherever I want to put it, but for collaboration and to manage my projects better, you need to segment your code using an app. So now I need to create an app for my driver registration. So what I'm gonna do, I'll come to my terminal here, and then I will simply press Ctrl C to stop it from running, and then I will type python manage.py, python manage.py starts app, and then the app name, so I'm just gonna call it driver. It's as simple as this. Let me reduce the screen. Okay, so this is it, python manage.py start app driver, and press enter. And then once I do that, it's gonna create a new folder here called driver, and you will have some files inside of it, just the way we have in our vendor app and our authentication app. So now here we go. It has created the app called driver. So inside the driver we have some files, views.py, test.py, models, app, and all the rest. Now the first thing you want to do when you create an app is to register your app in your main project folder. So my main project folder is book and ride. So click on it, book and ride. Then you go to settings.py, and then let me reduce this, and then you look for the installed app section. This is it, installed apps, and then in here you press enter, go to the next line, quotes, and then driver, just the way we've done for the other apps, and then don't forget to end it with a comma. Yeah, this is the first thing you need to do, and then I simply click on save all. Now the next thing you want to do is to create urls.py, for routing. So if you want to view any page that has to do with the driver, we need to route it using our urls.py. So I'm just gonna collapse this book and ride folder again, and then I'll click on my driver app to expand it, and then right click on your driver name on the folder, and then click on new file, and you call it urls.py. It's as simple as this. Now because we've been doing this for user registration and for vendor registration, it's gonna be easier for us. So what you need to do, just to speed up our development, just go to your vendor app, and then you can simply click on urls.py and then copy all the code. So if my speed is too fast for you, you can simply reduce the speed, and if I'm too slow for you, you can also increase the speed. I'm trying to balance everything because I understand I have a lot of audience from different countries, and so just manage the speed the way you like. Now I copy everything, and I'll go to my driver app, to the driver urls.py, and then simply paste it. So now you need to change the paths. So this, I have vendor reg, so I'm just gonna call this driver reg. You can call yours whatever you want, but this means that on my URL, when the application is live or when we are testing it, for example, if my domain is www.bookandride.com, it means when you go to www.bookandride, you need to put a / and then this driver reg to access the function that we're gonna put in here. So so you can call this whatever you want, and then views.vendorreg. This is gonna be your function name, so I'm not gonna call it vendor reg because it has nothing to do with vendor registration. So I'm gonna call it driver registration as well. Now this and this don't have to be the same. It can be different, but you can also make it the same if you want. Now this is gonna be our function name that we're gonna create on our views.py that will manage the driver registration. So you can call yours whatever you want to call it. Now name, I'll call this driver reg as well. This as well can just be anything. It's just a reference name that we're gonna be using when we start creating our front end. So if we want to make reference to this function, we'll make reference to it on our HTML and CSS templates with driver reg. You can call yours whatever you want to call. Now the next thing you want to do, we need to create this function, otherwise there's gonna be an error, so I'm just gonna copy this function name, and then what you need to do, go back to your driver app, and then go to the views.py, and then you create your function here. So to create a function is very simple. Define your function name. This is my function name I want. You can call yours whatever you want. You open parentheses and then you type request. It's as simple as this, and then semicolon. I'm gonna return an HTTP response for now. So I'm gonna import my HTTP module. So I'm gonna say from Django dot http imports http response. That's it, http response. So here now I'm gonna say return http response, welcome to our driver registration page. It's as simple as this. Now this is just gonna display this text message, on the web browser using http response. So we are not rendering this on any templates. We are not putting it, just like the way we did to display our messages for other app, where we created, authentication folder, created a home.html, vendor.reg.html. No, I just want to return an http response, So yeah, this is how to do it. Now so on our driver app, we've created our urls.py, and we have also, don't forget, we are able to use this driver reg, which is inside this views.py, because look here, we said from dots import views. So once you do from dot import views, it imports all the functions in your views.py. So that's why we can use it. Now the next thing you want to do is to include this URL in your driver app inside your main project directory URL. So I'm gonna collapse this. My main project directory URL is in book and ride. Now click to expand book and ride, and then you go to urls.py, and then just the way we did for vendor app, I'm just gonna copy this, paste it, and then take care of your indentation. This is gonna be what? Call it whatever you want, but just to make it uniform and to make me understand that this URL is for driver, I'm just gonna call it driver, but it can be whatever you want. And then you say include driver.urls. Now this cannot be whatever you want. This has to be the name of your app, this driver. So include driver.url. It means if, for example, my domain is www.bookandride.com, it means when I go to /driver, it takes me inside this driver URL. So if I want to access the function I created for my driver app, I'll need to type /driver and then / go to the driver app. You will see the URL. Go to this URL / this driver reg. So this URL will navigate me to this URL, and remember this URL is using our function, this driver reg. So once you go to that URL, it displays this message for you. That's how URL works with Python and Django. So I'm gonna delete this. Then we're gonna test out our URLs to see if it's working. So go back to file and then go back to save all, and then you need to run your server now. So I'll say python manage.py run server, and just give it some time for the server to spin up. So now simply copy this, your IP address, go to your web browser. It's already up. I'm just gonna paste it here. Yeah. Now how do we access the URL we just created? Like I said before, let's go back. So you need to navigate inside this driver. This is our book and ride folder. You need to do this, copy this driver in here, say /driver / go back here. So go to the driver app. urls driver reg. Copy this, and then yeah, you paste it and you press enter. So you see, this is it. Welcome to our driver registration page. Now when this project is live, or when we start creating our front end, you don't need to manually keep on typing these URLs. You can just indicate it on your HTML template, so once the user clicks from the home page, it takes them to the driver URL registration page. Just like in here, I'm just gonna come here, look, just the way I created a link here. You don't need to start typing the link on the address bar. So for vendor registration or user registration, you just click on this link and then it takes you in there. So this is what I'm gonna do, yeah. So we have to continue now. Right now we need to create our models for our driver registration. So for our views.py, just leave the code like this for now. When we finish creating our models, we'll return a page. Instead of returning HTTP response, we're gonna display an HTML page, just the way we did for vendor.html and home.html and vendor registration.html. So now we need to create our models, which is our database table and fields, for our driver registration functionalities. So the first thing you have to do is to go to your models.py inside your driver app. So I'll go to my models.py, and then it has imported from django.db imports models, which is fine. I'm just gonna take off these comments. Now the first thing you want to do is to import your user model. So I'm gonna say my user model is where I think my user model is authentication. I'm just gonna confirm that very quickly. Models, yeah, this is it, user model. Now I'll go back to my driver app and then models.py. So I'm gonna say from authentication dot models import user. The reason why I'm importing user is because the driver is also a user, and so the driver should also have a password, username and email. So this user model we created in our authentication app takes care of anything, password, username, email and all the rest. So I don't want to keep on creating a new user model for driver, create a new user model for vendor and also for user. So because Python is object oriented, you can create classes, inherit those classes and reuse your codes. So I have to import this user model, and then the next thing you want to do is to import the user profile model as well, because driver is also a human, is also a user of the system. So they also need to create their profile, like their first name, surname, middle name, nationalities and all the rest. So I'm just gonna say from authentication.models import user, comma, and then user profile. So if you've been following along, you'll see that this is what we did for our vendor registration as well. Now the next thing you want to do is to define a class. So you say class, I'm gonna call it driver. You can call yours whatever you want, and then you open parentheses and you say models dot model. The first model is small letter and then the next one is capital letter. Models dot model and then semicolon. Yeah, that's it. Now I'll define my first field. I'm just gonna call it user equals models, the models dot one-to-one field, open parenthesis and you say user. Now it means one driver can only have one user profile. No, this is user profile, which is different from user. Like I said before, this user, I'm just gonna open this user model so you understand better. So I'm gonna go to my authentication app. I'll go to my models, and then you see my user. You see, so in user I declared username, email, the role, if the user is a staff, if the user is a super user, username field, required field. Now this user model, it's, I'm inheriting the abstract user in Django, which automatically has password fields. So because it has password fields, I don't necessarily need to include password here. I only included the fields that I want. Password field can be used whether or not I declare it here or not. So when we start writing our codes, you will see where I use the password field despite not including it inside this model, but it is there. So yeah, and then the user profile that I declared has first name, last name, profile picture, date of birth, address line 1, nationality, and so on and so forth. So now I'm just gonna go back to my driver and my models.py. So I'm saying user, this is a new field, which is, this is capital letter, this is a model, this is just a field, in my driver model, and the model is like a database table. So here I'm saying models dot one to one field user. It means create a user account for this driver, but only one driver can have one user account. So you will only have one email, one password, and one username. That is what it means. I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible because I have a lot of people, that are new to programming and all the rest. So I'm trying to make it as low level as possible so that I can carry everyone along. But as we progress, I'm gonna scale it up eventually. Now the next thing you do is to say on delete equals models.cascade. So when you delete the driver, their record inside this user model should also be deleted. That is what this on delete equals models.cascade means. Sometimes you can say models.do nothing, but in this case I just want to do models.cascade. Now when you declare a one-to-one field, you need to define a related name. So I'm just gonna say related name equals, just say, call it anything, the user. Is like how you want to access the record in reverse. I will explain this later. And then the next thing you want to do is the user profile as well. We need a user profile for this driver, to capture their name, their nationality, email address, home address, and all the rest. So it's just gonna be exactly the same thing as we did here. So I'm gonna say models dot one-to-one field, user profile, yeah, and then the same thing, put a comma, and then you say on delete equals models.cascade. Yeah. And then you also state the related underscore name equals the driver profile, whatever you want to call it. Now the next field I want to capture is maybe their plate number. So I'm just gonna say plates underscore number equals models dot character field, then define a max length attribute. Max length is, a plate number should not be, I've not seen a plate number that is more than 20 characters, but I'm just gonna make mine 40, because if you make it smaller, for example, if you make this 8, and then the driver tries to input a 12 digits character plate number, is not going to accept it. So make sure that your max length is always a little bit higher than the anticipated character length, but don't make it smaller and don't make it too big, because if you make it too big, your database size is gonna be too big. It's gonna take more space. So yeah, this is for plate number. So I want to define, let me capture the field for vehicle type. So I'm just gonna say vehicle underscore type. You can capture more field if you want. You can also use different field name, so your project is gonna be a little bit different from mine, and then you can use it in your in your GitHub, and also on your CV. Vehicle underscore type equals models dot character field. Max length is gonna be max underscore length. I'm just gonna make it 100, and then I need something vehicle type. I'll make it a choices field. So I'm gonna come back to this now. Let me go up in here. I'm gonna define a choices field. So I'm gonna define something like this, because I don't want the user or the driver to manually type their vehicle type. I want them to select from a drop-down field. I need to define a choices field. So I'm just gonna say vehicle underscore type. Let me make it different from my field name. Vehicle underscore type equals a tuple. So I'm gonna say bike. Put a comma, then I'm gonna say car. Put a comma. If you think that they use other kind of vehicles, for Uber or a ride sharing app, you can include it here. So you can add more here with a comma. If you put a comma, you can add more here if you want. So yeah, so now I've defined two choices, bike. So on the drop down, I'm gonna have bike or car. Now in here, I'm gonna come here and say choices, put a comma, put choices equals, it's gonna be vehicle underscore type. So the drop down is gonna have these two choices equals vehicle underscore type. Take note, this is a field name, vehicle underscore type. You can make it different so you don't get confused, and then this is my choices option, vehicle underscore type. Yeah, so that's it. Now the next thing I need is, maybe I need something like driver slug. So I'm just gonna say driver underscore slug equals models.slug field, max length, max underscore length equals, I'm gonna make it 100, and then I'm gonna say unique equals true. So this log field, I want to use it as a unique identifier. Now let's assume that I have driver A named Elvis, and driver 2 came again and registered as Elvis. Now to create a unique identifier for them and to reference them on my code using their slug field, I can decide to concatenate their ID. So when driver A registers, it will have an ID of 1 automatically, 1, and then driver 2 registers as Elvis as well, it will have an ID as 2 automatically. Now I can create a driver slug to concatenate their name and their ID. So this driver slug can be Elvis underscore 2, while this is gonna be Elvis underscore 1. You're gonna understand this slug field better when we start coding, when we start creating our views and our function. So with this, I've created a unique identifier. Now I can identify drivers by their unique ID, because when they register on this system, it gives them ID. I can identify them also using their slug. So yeah, so you just leave it at this. When we start creating the views, you will see how I'm gonna capture this slug field, and everything is gonna be clearer for you. Now the next thing I want to capture is driver license. So driver license, I'm just gonna say models dot image field. I want them to upload their license. Models dot image field, and then I say upload. So equals where will I upload it to? I'm just gonna put it inside a driver folder. So it's gonna go inside folder / license. So it means once a driver uploads their driver license, it will create a folder called driver. Then it will create a subfolder inside this driver folder called license, and dump all the driver license inside this folder. This way we can manage images and media better. For profile picture, it will also create a vendor folder, and then profile picture, dump all the profile picture inside that folder. So yeah, this is how it works. Now the next field I'm going to capture is approved. Now when this driver registers on the platform, they will not just get approved automatically. An admin needs to check their documents to make sure that everything is correct before they approve. So this is approved status. By default is gonna be false. That means the driver is not yet approved until the admin approves the driver. So is approved, I'll say models.boolean field. Boolean field, like is true or false, yes or no. Models.boolean field, then I'm gonna say default equals false. Now the next thing I want to capture is created as. When the account was created, equals models dot date time field. Models dot date time field auto now add equals true. So this auto now add equals true. It means once a driver registers on the platform, it picks the date and time automatically and saves the date and time inside the field called created as. Now I'm gonna define another field. I'm just gonna call it modified ads. Modified underscore ads equals the same thing. Models dots. No, this time around just call it date field. Models dots dates. I can use date time field as well. Date time field, and now I'll say auto now equals true. No longer auto now add, because the time has already created. If you're modifying, you simply use auto now equals true, not auto now add. At this point it is adding because there is no date and time, but at this point it's just picking the current date and time that this record was modified. So this is good for audit purposes. Now these are the fields I want to capture. You can add more, you can change the field names. Now the next thing I want to do is to define a class method, the attributes of this database table that we just created. Now I'm gonna say verbose name, verbose underscore name equals driver. You know what verbose name means? Now this is our model name. Now when you have more records, okay, I'm just gonna leave out this verbose name first. Now let me just continue. I believe you've already understood what it means, when we did our vendor app. So On this driver, on our model, if you go to the admin.py, it's gonna show as driver and then add a plural to it once you have multiple records. So our model name is gonna be drivers, but I want to override this model name and I want to make it driver. So whether or not we have multiple fields or not, it should just remain as driver. Now you can change this to whatever you want, and then the verbose name plural as well, verbose underscore name underscore plural. This is when it is more than one record. I still want it to remain as driver on my admin panel. Yeah, so this is it. Now you define your string representation. So you say def str def underscore underscore str underscore underscore parenthesis self and then semicolon. You say return. Yeah, take care of your indentation. So this has to be on the same line with your class meta. Yeah, so return. I'm just gonna take this back. Return, I will say f string to format it, and then I will say self dot I want to return this. I want to return, so on the admin I want my driver plate number. I want this. I want my string representation to be plate number. So when I go to the admin panel, I'll just say the plate number before I even click on the record to see more information. So I'm gonna separate this, and then I'm just gonna say it should return the plate number and also the username. So I will say self dot user. Is there a username field? I don't have a username field here, so I'm just gonna use self dot user. No, let me not use user. I'm just gonna use self dot vehicle type. So I want to see their vehicle number and also their vehicle type. Now, but in here I can also return a field that is not here. I can return user underscore name. No, user underscore name is not here, so I'm just gonna leave it. Control Z, vehicle type. I defined a username inside my models and my user profile. Okay, user profile, I have user first name. Let me check where I defined username. Yeah, on my user model I defined the username, but on my driver app I'm not defining another username again, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. So now we're done with our models. You can add more field if you want. You can also remove more field if you want. You can rename the field if you want. Now the next thing you need to do is to go to file and click on save all, and then you go to your terminal. You need to run migration, so that your database will be created. This table is gonna be created on your database. Now before we run migration, here we have, I'm using the f formatted string self.plate number and self.vehicle type, but I don't want the vehicle type. I want inside this model user profile, let me see where I have username. I want to return the username. So user profile and user is coming from authentication app. So I'm gonna go to the models.py, and then yeah, so in my user model I have username. So I will return this because we are using this user model in our driver app as well. So I'll go back to my driver app and models.py. So now in here it's gonna be self.user self.user.username. So user is a field, and we are saying it should be models.one-to-one field inside this user model. And in this user model, we have username. So if you want to use any field inside this username, you have to call these fields. So that's why I say self.user.username. So username is not in my driver model, but it is inside this user model. So that's how it works. Now go to file and click on save all, and then open your terminal. Yeah, and then you can click inside this place, inside this terminal, and press Ctrl C to stop the server from running. Now you type Python manage.py make migrations. So as you can see, it has created the driver model. Now the next thing you need to do is migrate it. So I type Python manage.py migrate. So when the migration is complete, we're gonna log into the admin.py sites and then check if the database table was created, but it's not gonna show because we've not registered our model inside our admin.py. So let me just show you. So now I'll run python manage.py, run server. I'll run it on a different port because I think I ran some other application on port 8080. So I'm just gonna run this on port 8082. Now I'll go to this address bar. Yeah. And then to navigate to my admin site, I put a /admin. So this is it. So my driver model is not showing here because when you create your model, you need to go to your admin.py file. So go to the driver app and then go to admin.py, and then you import the model you want to use. So I'm just gonna say from models import driver. Now the next thing you want to do is say admin.sites.register. You register your model driver. That is it. So I'm just gonna click on file and save all, and then I'm gonna refresh my admin panel. Yeah, it's reloading. Just give it some time for it to reload. So once it's finished reloading, I'm gonna open my admin panel, and here it is, driver. So it's here now. Now if I click, I can create a new driver record here, but this is just an illustration. We're gonna create our front end, our interface where the driver can register, and not doing it on the admin panel. So I'm just gonna create a record very quickly now. So I'll say add driver, and now user, it's giving me a drop down of all the users. This is because in my model, let me show you, model, I said user equals models.one-to-one field user. So it will give me all the list of registered users on this user model, and that is why I have the user here. So I'm just gonna choose this, then user profile, I'm just gonna choose whatever I want, plate number, vehicle type, car, driver's log. I'm just gonna generate it manually for now. So and then choose driver's license. I'm gonna just choose anything, then I click on save. So now it has created one driver record, and this is it. I'll go to my model, and then I'll show you. the string representation I created. So this is it. I said self.plate number, and that is why I have the plate number here, and then self.user.username. So the username is Elvis. So this is it. If you click on it, you can see, the entire record. But then instead of displaying just, plate number and the username, I want to display more record here, so that even without opening this record, I can, on a glance, I will see, a little bit more options here, so it makes more sense that way. So now open back your VS Code, and then you go back to your admin.py file. This is where you have to do it. So in here, you define a class. I'll call it class. I'm just gonna say driver admin. Now you open quote, you say admin dot model admin. Yeah, that is it. And then semicolon, and then I'm gonna say list underscore display is gonna be list underscore display equals to, then what do I want to display? I'll go to my model. I want to display, let me display the user. So I'm gonna say in quotes user, then I want to display plate number as well, comma, plate number. Then I want to display vehicle type. You can display more if you want. I'm just gonna leave mine at this way, vehicle type. Yeah, this is all. Now what I need to do to make this visible, you need to copy this class name, this driver admin, and come to this your admin.site.register driver, put a comma, and then include it. Now I'm just gonna save all and then refresh my admin panel. Now open my web browser and I'm gonna refresh this. So you see I have Elvis now, I have the plate number, I have car, the vehicle type as well. So if I have maybe 10 or more records, for example, I can quickly see what each record is all about even without opening any of this link. Now I want some other thing. I want list display link. So I don't want the link to be only on this username. Maybe I want the link to as well be on this plate number, so I can click on username to open the record, or I can click on the plate number or whatever I want. So to achieve that, you need to define list display link. So you say list underscore display link, equals to parenthesis. So I want the link to be on user. I also want the link to be on plate number. Yeah. So I'm just gonna click on file and save all. Now I'll go back to my admin panel and then refresh my. Now you see plate number has a link as well. So if I click on it, it's gonna open up the record. Now I can edit whatever field I want. If I go in here, I can edit it, but I can decide to quickly edit something here as well. So now I can decide to edit vehicle type, but take note, you can't edit a link. Once you make any field a link, you can't edit it again, because a field cannot be a link and also editable. For example, you can't, this combo box we have here, you can't make it an editable field and also a link. So once you make it editable, it means it's gonna be inside a text box or a combo box or a drop down box, and then you will not be able to edit it anymore. So take note of that. If you want to edit plate number, you need to take it off from list display link. So to achieve my editable, you come to this place and you say list editable equals parentheses quotes vehicle type. So I have three fields here. I have three fields here. It's only vehicle type that is not editable. Now take note, because this is a tuple, you need to end it with a comma, otherwise you're gonna have an error. So I put a comma and then go to file and save all. Now open your web browser and then refresh the page again. So you see I can edit the vehicle type now from car to bike. If I want to edit plate number, I'll simply remove it from list display link and then I'll add it in here, plate number. So what you need to do is add more field here, and maybe you should have 2 display link and 2 editable. That's it, to make your code a little bit different from mine. Now I'll go to my web browser and then I refresh the page again. So now I can edit plate number. I can also edit the vehicle type. So yeah, this is it. So yeah, this is where I'm gonna stop for today, so the lectures don't get too much, the length of the lectures don't get too much. In my next lectures, we're gonna write our function on our views.py that is gonna take the record from the front end and save into the database instead of creating our driver record in here. And then I think we've come a long way in this application. After this driver registration views function is completed, we're gonna start designing our pages. We'll develop our front end with HTML, CSS, Bootstrap and JavaScript. So at the end of these lectures, you're gonna be a full stack developer. A full stack developer is one that can build both front end and back end all by yourself, so you can do everything. So some people just specialize in front end development while some people specialize in back end development. But this lectures is more focused on back end development, which is a real deal. But however, it is good to have idea of front-end frameworks and languages, so that on your own you can build whatever you want to build. So yeah, now this lectures is for, I'm just gonna open my channel now. So I have 3 playlists on my channel. I have Python and Django tutorial building web app that has the functionalities of Airbnb, Booking.com and Uber. So in here, we're using Python and Django for the backend, and then we are using HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, vanilla JavaScript, and jQuery for the front end. While this second tutorial, instead of using HTML and CSS, and all those front end technologies, we are using React.js, which uses, a syntax called JSX, which is abbreviation for JavaScript XML. So we're using React JS for the front end, and then we're using Python and Django for the back end, and we're using Django REST framework for the API. So this tutorial is for Python and Django tutorial, for this playlist. So when you come to my channel, make sure you come to this playlist, and then if this is the lectures you are following, click on these lectures and then follow the videos. You can see we already have 12 videos, and then if this is the lectures that you're learning, you click on this playlist and keep learning. So because if you just go to videos, you will see all the videos are combined. So all the videos are combined, and it's gonna confuse you. But if you simply just click on playlist, you can know which video is for which, and then you follow along. And so yeah, and then I have the third playlist, which is utility lessons, where I'm gonna teach random stuff like core Python programming, Java, C Sharp, ASP.NET, and just about any random stuff I think that is beneficial to you. I'll also be teaching Git and version control in my utility lesson. I'm also gonna teach on Docker and Kubernetes as well. So on this playlist, Django and React Employee Record Management Web App, this playlist, I'm teaching how to build an employee record management web application using Python and Django for the backend and using React.js for the front end. And then when I'm done with these lectures, the aim is to introduce you to these technologies, by building a smaller application. And even if it's a full stack application, the lessons can maybe just around about 25 lessons, which is easy for beginners to comprehend. And once we're done with these lectures, we're gonna move over to a very big project I'm building, which is a learning management system that is gonna have the functionalities of Udemy, Coursera, or other learning platform. So I call it Bright Minds, and I'm using React JS for the front end, and then I'm also using Python and Django for the backend, and REST framework as well to build my API. So this is gonna be a very big project where you're gonna learn full stack web development using modern technologies. Now I'm gonna build the web version of this application, which I have already started. As you can see, I have a lot of components. I've finished creating the templates, the front end template. I've created the backend as well. What is just remaining is just to integrate the front end and the backend. And then when we're done with the web version, we're gonna use Python and Django, the same application, but we're gonna use Python and Django, still Python and Django for the backend. And this time around, we'll use React Native for the front end to build our mobile version. So we are using React.js for the for the web version, and then we are using React Native and Python and Django for the mobile version. And then we're gonna use the same technology, but including Electron to build the desktop version. So with the same source code, the same project, you're gonna learn how to build web-based application using Python, Django, and React.js. You're gonna learn how to build the mobile applications. You're also gonna learn how to build desktop applications. So stay tuned and don't forget to like my videos and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so that once I drop the next video, you're gonna receive a notification and you're gonna learn along. So thank you very much, and I'll see you again in the coming days. If you have any question, please drop it on the comment section, and if it's something that you feel that you can't handle alone all by yourself, don't struggle too much. Just send me an email, and I will be there to guide you. So this is my email. Simply send me an email if you can't resolve your issues by yourself, and then I will help you out. And thank you very much, and see you again in the coming days. Bye bye.